On a clear morning in modern Hiroshima, a streetcar hums along the Motoyasu River, while cyclists move down the embankment.
A testament to
office.
resilience, this
Towers
district rose from the ashes of the
canopy
past,
of green.
blending the historic waterway
Almost
with
everything
cutting-edge urban
along
design.
this river has been rebuilt, repaired, or replaced at least once in the last 80 years, except for a single skeletal dome that
Here,
still
the
holds
scars
the
of war
exact
meet the
broken shape
vibrancy
it
of
took
modern Japan,
in
a
1945.
deliberate contrast, ensuring the past
Before
is
the
never
bombing,
forgotten amidst the
that
bustle
building
of the present.
was the Hiroshima Prefectural Industrial
In ancient
Promotion
Western
Hall,
Japan,
a proud
the sea
showcase
provided
for
everything.
local commerce and
These
art.
calm tidal waters
And the
and
fact
rich
that a
mud.
rebuilt city has chosen to leave one wound visibly open is the paradox this story needs to answer. Strip away
Every
the
year,
concrete,
the river carries
the bridges,
tons of sediment from
and
the
the rail
mountains,
lines,
visibly
and the streets
extending the
themselves
delta into the
disappear
turquoise waters
because
of the bay.
for a very long stretch of time, there were no streets here at all, only shallow water. Long before any city carried the name Hiroshima, the Ota River was already at work, carrying silt down from the mountains and dropping it into a broad, sheltered bay. Grain by grain, inland, out of sea. People had lived along this coastline and in these river valleys since the Jomon and Yayoi periods, drawn by fish, fresh water, and higher ground. But no single settlement here was yet powerful enough to organize the whole delta into one city. Through the medieval centuries, the sediment kept accumulating,
The Rokaku
turning
River
open
Delta,
water into
seen
levees,
here, was a strategic
shoals,
hub.
and marsh.
Timber supplies were
Land
crucial.
emerging so
Carry-
gradually
This
that no
area
one
near
who
the
lived
river is
beside
suitable
it
for the
could have
storehouses.
named the year it
Yes,
changed
Lord, the ground is
from
stable
sea
here.
to solid ground. That slow accumulation
The
only
unification
mattered
of Japan
because of what was
demanded
happening
new
elsewhere
symbols
in
of
Japan.
power. Here,
In the
on the
16th
banks of the
century, the
Kako
Mori
River,
clan
construction
Push it up,
expanded its
more to the
territory
left.
across the Chugoku region,
Secure that beam now.
winning ground until its
Bring the next
mountain
stones
headquarters at Yoshida Koriyama
The new
Castle,
castle draws people from
tucked
across
among
the province.
steep inland
We need
valleys,
more timber
could
down
no
by the
longer
river.
serve a
Fresh
domain
vegetables
at
here.
large. A mountain fortress
These are the
could defend
finest
a small
wares in the market
territory
today.
well,
How much
but
for
it
the
could not
basket of
move
fish?
soldiers,
A fair
taxes,
price for a fair
or
trade, my
trade
friend.
goods efficiently
As the
across a
Edo
growing
period
one.
begins, these
And
highways
Mori
become the
Teramoto
lifeblood of the
needed a
expanding
new
castle
seat of
towns,
power,
drawing
with better
merchants
roads
and travelers
and
from
direct
across the
access
land.
to the sea. The delta that the river had spent centuries assembling was, without anyone planning it that way, exactly what a modern feudal lord now required. Open land near the coast, waterways that could carry ships inland, and room enough to build a true administrative center, rather than a fortress hemmed in by mountains. Geography that had existed purely by accident of geology was about to become a political asset. Nature had taken hundreds of years to
The
build
cotton
this
shipment
ground.
arrived this morning, sir.
Teramoto
Excellent.
would
I
need
will
only
take
a
5
few
bales.
years to turn it into a city. In 1589,
Freshly
Mori
grilled
Teramoto
skewers.
began
Right
construction
here.
of Hiroshima
Have ho,
Castle
have ho.
on the delta
Carry the rice.
at a site called Goka.
Fine silks
And it was
from the
around this
capital.
project
We'll take
that the
5
name
bales of the
Hiroshima
finest
first
rice.
came into
Excellent.
use.
See that
By
it is delivered by the
1591,
afternoon.
the castle was substantially complete, and Teramoto had moved his household there. And almost overnight, the marshy ground, filled with vassals, laborers, and
The
shopkeepers
arrival of
pulled
the
in
new
by the
administrative
presence of power.
notices signaled the
A political
irreversible
decision,
decline of
not
the
a
old
natural
feudal
process,
order.
had produced
The collapse
an
of
urban
feudal rule
population
brought a new
in a place
administrative
where
era,
only reeds and
repurposing the
riverboats
samurai
had existed
residences
before.
for a modern government.
That population soon
The
discovered
Meiji era
its
brought
city
rapid
could outlive
change,
its founder.
blending ancient traditions
After
with
Mori
Western
lost at
innovations
the Battle of
like the telegraph
Sekigahara
and
in
modern
1600,
administration.
control
castle
of
stands
Hiroshima
silent now.
passed to Fukushima
Here in the
Masanori,
regional centers,
who
it is
expanded the
commerce
castle
and
town
administration
further
that drive
and
the new
rerouted the
Japan.
Saikoku Highway to run directly
By the late
past its
1890s,
gates.
Japan
And in
was rapidly
1619,
expanding its
the
infrastructure.
domain passed again,
This massive
this
project
time to Asano Nagakira, whose family would govern Hiroshima for more than 2 centuries. Mori had lost the city he built, but the city itself had already become too useful to abandon or dismantle. Land reclamation continued southward
Forward march,
for generations,
quickly now.
pushing the delta itself outward
Move those crates to the
keep
second
pace
hold.
with a population
Faster.
that kept growing.
The situation in the north is
1820, the
deteriorating
castle town,
rapidly.
Original settlement.
We
and
must
reclaimed
mobilize the
districts
reserves
together
immediately, Colonel.
held nearly
We
70,000
must secure the
people,
railway line by
making
sundown.
Hiroshima
The terrain is
one of the
difficult.
largest urban
We need more
centers in
time for the heavy
Japan.
guns. The
The
telegraph
city was
confirms
no
the
longer
supplies
simply
are en
sitting
route.
on the delta. It was actively expanding, a habit it would repeat again and again in the centuries ahead. As the
午後の
samurai
航海に行くの
population
ですか
grew,
ね。で
so
も
did a
先に
second
本を
economy
買わな
running
いとね。
alongside it. The Hon and Motoyasu rivers filled with barges carrying cotton, paper, bamboo goods, vegetables, seaweed, and oysters gathered from the surrounding region and funneled onward toward Kyoto and Osaka. And the crowded market streets of Nakajima, a district that one day carried an entirely different name, became the commercial heart of the city.
The
Hiroshima had
Taishu
begun
era saw
as an instrument
unprecedented
of feudal
growth.
power,
Factories
but it
churned
was
out
steadily
goods, and
acquiring
the military's
a second
presence in the
reason to
transport
exist,
sector became increasingly
independent
visible.
of any lord, commerce that fed itself. Warehouses lined the riverbanks, shopkeepers set up along the highway, and craftsmen lived just beyond the ring of samurai residences. An ordinary lived city built up around a fortress
Standing
that had once
proudly
been
by
its
the river,
entire
the
purpose.
Grand Exhibition Building
For
welcomed
nearly
thousands
3
daily,
centuries,
a
the
symbol of
castle
the
stood
era's
at the
rapid
center of that
modernization.
arrangement.
This
But in the
bustling
19th
riverside
century,
avenue in the
a political
1930s
revolution
showcases a
would strip the
dynamic
castle
blend of
the
modern
very
architecture
function
and
that had
traditional life.
justified its existence. And Hiroshima would be forced to reinvent itself for the first time. When the feudal domains were abolished
Faced with severe
in
shortages,
1871,
these schoolyards
the
became
castle
vital
stopped
sources of
functioning
sustenance,
as the
tended
seat
by
of a ruling
students and
lord.
teachers alike.
But the city around it
together now!
did not fade
Heave
with
ho!
it.
Heave ho!
Hiroshima instead became the administrative center of its prefecture. And on the 1st of
下げて
April
早くて
1889,
次の貨車だよ
it was formally
次の貨車だ
incorporated as a city with a population of 83,387. The old order had disappeared, but Hiroshima's importance had simply been
The
reassigned
summer of
rather than
1945.
destroyed.
An elevated
Carried
view
forward
reveals
now
the
by
juxtaposition of daily
administration,
life and the strategic
commerce,
industries that
and sheer
supported the
number
war
of
effort.
people, rather than feudal loyalty. Construction of a modern harbour at Ujina began in 1884 and was completed in 1889, alongside major land reclamation to the south, giving the city a proper gateway to the sea capable of handling larger ships and a growing volume of trade. That harbour also gave Hiroshima
The clear
a
morning
capability
sky over
nobody
the
had
industrial
built it for.
heartland.
The
Far
ability
below,
to move
the sprawling
troops
urban
and
area
military
awaited its
supplies
fate.
efficiently overseas.
Then,
In June of 1894, the Sanyo Railway reached Hiroshima, and when the First Sino-Japanese War broke out that same summer, a military railway linking the city to Ujina Port was built in a matter of weeks to connect the new rail network directly to the harbour. National Railway, city, and port were now one continuous
the
corridor,
devastation was absolute.
and Hiroshima
Yet
had
many
quietly
survivors,
become a
seemingly
logistics
uninjured,
machine.
wandered through the ruins,
That September,
victims of an unseen
Imperial
force.
headquarters relocated into Hiroshima Castle itself, and an extraordinary session of the Imperial Diet convened in the,
The
city
blast
the
left
following
the city
month, so
unrecognizable.
that for a period
Survivors
Hiroshima
emerged into a landscape of
functioned
ruin, the
almost
avenue
as a
choked with
temporary
debris and
national
the bridge
capital.
barely standing.
We
A
need to
castle
reroute all aid
originally
through
built
checkpoint
to govern
7. The
Western
bridge on the East
Honshu
Road is down,
was
sir.
now
Confirmed
serving as
5
the
minutes
command
ago.
center of a
Updating the
modern
Northern District
imperial
figures
war,
now.
because railway, port, and military presence had converged in exactly this place. When the Russo-Japanese War began in 1904, military demand pushed Hiroshima's industry forward again. But the city was never only a garrison. It was also becoming a center of education, commerce, and regional culture, expanding on more than one front at once. In 1912, electric streetcars began running through its streets, replacing horse-drawn transport and reshaping the commercial geography of the city center. And a resident who had been born amid feudal wars could, within a single lifetime, watch that same city acquire a steam railway, a military harbor, and an electric
Your recovery
streetcar
is
line.
progressing well.
The infrastructure
Please
that
continue the
solved
medication
Hiroshima's
and
economic
return next
problem
month.
had, without anyone intending it,
Amidst the ruins,
also
the survivors
created
shared what little they
Hiroshima's
had,
strategic
their resilience
exposure.
a testament to the
By
enduring
the
human
early
spirit in the
20th
summer of
century, the city
1945.
had reinvented itself successfully. That very success would define the danger waiting in its future. The more efficient Hiroshima became at moving people, goods, and industry, the more valuable it became to a nation moving deeper into war. In 1929, Hiroshima absorbed 7 surrounding municipalities, pushing its population past 270,000 and placing it among the largest cities in Japan. A true metropolis.
The
that had
bustling
long
freight
since
yards were the
outgrown
lifeblood
old
of the growing
castle
war
town's
effort,
footprint.
moving vital
Streetcars
supplies
carried
across the
commuters
region.
past shopping districts, schools, and riverfront restaurants, while factories and military barracks operated only streets away. Two versions of the same city functioning side by side. Among the landmarks of that ordinary modern life stood the Hiroshima
By the late
Prefectural
1920s,
Commercial Exhibition
this vast
Hall,
metropolis had long since
completed in
outgrown the shadow of
1915,
the old feudal castle.
and later renamed the Industrial Promotion Hall. A European-style building beside the river, where residents came to see exhibitions of local products and art. Its clean walls and windows, a familiar backdrop to daily errands and river traffic. The military infrastructure built during the wars against China and Russia only deepened with time. Army facilities expanded.
The riverfront in the 1930s
Ujina remained a
was
key
a hub
point
of
for
activity.
troops departing overseas.
Cargo boats
and
moved
wartime
goods past
industry
the Grand
increasingly shaped what the city produced, so that
Move
the
those
civilian
supplies to the
economy
third
was
warehouse
gradually
now.
folded into the demands of a nation at war. That absorption reached directly into daily life as the war situation worsened. Food grew scarce. Schoolyards were turned over to growing vegetables. Younger children were evacuated to the countryside, and older students were mobilized into factories or assigned to tear down houses to create fire breaks against expected air raids. Some of the very students clearing those fire breaks to protect the city from
Don't forget
fire
your luggage.
would be
There's room
working
inside.
in the open
All right,
near
pull
the
the
city
ropes now.
center
Everyone
on the
together.
morning of
Move the
August
carts to the
6th.
right.
Hiroshima had become a target for reasons rooted in
pull,
decades of
harder now.
accumulated importance
It's
rather
coming down.
than any
Get back.
single decision. It held a significant concentration of military
Summer
and manufacturing
1945.
facilities.
As the war raged
Its
on,
size
these
and
students were
layout
tasked with
made it
clearing
useful
vital
for
fire
assessing
breaks in
the
Japan's
effects of a
major
new
cities.
weapon. And unlike many
This
other
sprawling
major
Japanese
Japanese
metropolis,
cities,
seen here in the summer
it had
of
largely been
1945,
spared
remained
the heavy
untouched by the
conventional
conflict.
bombing that had already struck much of the country. The very infrastructure that had once made Hiroshima powerful was now part of what placed it in
A
extraordinary
rare
danger.
sight in the final
On the
months
evening
of
of
the
August
war.
5th,
This
none of
sprawling
this
urban center
yet
had
looked
thus
like
far
history.
escaped the wild.
streetcars were being readied for the next morning's routes. Students had assignments waiting. Factories had shifts scheduled. Families made ordinary plans for an ordinary day, unaware that centuries of accumulated history.
A quiet evening in the summer of
Meiji
1945.
infrastructure,
The routine
modern
maintenance
shops,
of the streetcars
schools,
continues.
homes,
A moment
and
of
military
calm in a turbulent
installations,
year.
all still standing that evening, would not survive the morning that followed. Roughly 350,000 people were in Hiroshima that morning. A mix of civilians, military personnel, commuters, mobilized workers, and people of several nationalities. Most of them simply moving through the beginning of another day. Streetcars were running. Some students were already at work, clearing demolition sites. Others were on their way to factories or offices. It was,
In the
every
summer of
visible way,
1945,
an ordinary morning
routine city
inside
life
a country
continued.
at war.
Here we see
At
students clearing
8:15 in the
demolition.
morning on August 6, 1945, the first atomic bomb used in warfare detonated approximately 600 meters above central Hiroshima, released from an aircraft named Enola Gay, carrying a weapon known as Little Boy.
At
The physics
8:15
and the
a.m.,
engineering
the
behind
bomber
that weapon
released its
are
payload.
not what defines this
A moment
city's
later,
story.
an
What
intense
matters is what
flash.
happened to Hiroshima in the seconds and years that had followed. Three forces struck the city almost simultaneously. Intense heat burned exposed skin and ignited wood, paper, and cloth across a wide radius. The
In
blast
that
wave
instant,
leveled
the
buildings
district was
that had stood
engulfed
for
by an
decades.
unimaginable thermal wave,
And ionizing
instantly
radiation
igniting everything
caused
combustible.
injuries that were not always visible in the moment that they occurred. City records describe destruction across much of the urban area, along with long-term radiation effects that extended
The
well
devastation
beyond
was
the immediate
absolute.
blast zone. This was not simply a matter of
From this
buildings
vantage
falling
point,
down.
the true horror
It was the
of the attack
collapse of an
becomes
entire
clear.
functioning
A
city
landscape
system at
utterly
once.
transformed into ash
Roads
and
were
debris.
blocked by debris. Bridges were damaged. Electric lines were severed, and the streetcar network was wrecked. Water pipes broke. Hospitals and clinics were themselves damaged or overwhelmed. At the exact moment,
Amidst the
hundreds
rubble
of
and the
thousands
relentless
of people
torrent of water,
needed medical
the
care.
hospital's remaining staff
Fires
struggled
that
to cope
started
with the
separately
overwhelming
merged
tide of
into larger
survivors.
conflagrations
大丈夫
across
ですか
entire
頑張ってくだ
neighborhoods.
さい
Even the
すぐな手
city
当てします
government's
から
own
ね。
capacity to respond was crippled by losses among its staff.
Cross-reference these names with the
Hiroshima
hospital
needed its
manifest.
systems to function
We're still
more
missing
urgently
dozens from
than
the
at
factory.
any point
Yes,
in its
I'm working
history.
on it now.
At the precise moment, those systems stopped working.
The failure of essential
Students who
urban
had been
systems
mobilized
brought the
for building
district to a
demolition
halt.
were among those closest to the hypercenter. And museum records preserve numerous accounts of entire school groups suffering catastrophic losses within moments. Survivors made their way toward the rivers, seeking water and relief from the heat. People emerged from the wreckage, burned and wounded, while others who appeared to survive the initial blast later developed acute radiation sickness in the hours and days that followed. Hiroshima's own city records stress that an exact death toll can never be fully known, estimating approximately 140,000 deaths by the end of December that year, a number that represented, until only hours earlier, ordinary people living ordinary routines.
This haunting structure,
Near the high
once the
center,
city's commercial
the industrial
heart,
promotion
became
hall
the enduring
lost
symbol
its
of a
surrounding
new
neighborhood
and
almost
terrifying
entirely,
age.
and the building itself was devastated. Yet the steel frame beneath its distinctive dome remained standing and recognizable. A structure that had represented commerce and modernity 30 years earlier was now a ruin,
Weeks
though
after
it would
the
later
fires,
become
the struggle
something
for
else
survival
entirely.
continued.
Destruction
Inside the
did not
temporary
end
wards,
when the
medical
fires
workers
burned
did
out.
what they could with limited
Illnesses
supplies.
continued to emerge in the months and
Deep
years
breath in,
afterward,
please.
and elevated risks of cancer and
And slowly
leukemia
out.
became a lasting part of survivors' lives, alongside social consequences that outlasted any physical wound. Japan announced its surrender
The summer of
later that same
1945
month,
brought an
but
end
for
to the
Hiroshima,
fighting.
the emergency
But for the
was
people
far
of
from
Japan,
over.
the struggle for
Where would
survival
people
was
sleep?
just beginning.
Where would food come
Heave!
from?
Lift it higher.
Could the wounded
All right,
be moved?
set it down slowly.
Could water flow again? Could trains run? Could children return to any kind of school? Could a city government even function? Weeks after the bombing, the Makurazaki typhoon struck the region as well, bringing further flooding to a landscape already struggling under ruins and broken infrastructure, so that Hiroshima's reconstruction would not begin from a clean, empty slate, but from ongoing disorder.
As the
layered
dust
on
settled
top
in
of
late
catastrophe.
1945, the full
The
scale of
old
the devastation
Hiroshima
became
had
clear.
taken more than
Centuries of
350
history
years to
wiped
build.
out in a moment.
Its central districts were devastated in a single morning. But the first sign of the next Hiroshima would appear almost immediately, not as a monument or a speech, but as infrastructure beginning to move again. On August 9th, only 3 days
As the
after
year
bombing,
1945 drew
a
to a
limited
close,
streetcar
services,
shuttle
essential
resumed
service
running
streetcar shuttle
between
began to
Koi
return.
and Nishitenmachi, with railway lines and utilities restored gradually in the days and weeks that followed. It was a small, almost modest event, but it said something no speech could. The city had not healed, but it had begun
Please
to
keep
function
moving
again.
toward the exit.
Trains
Excuse
carried
me,
the
have you
wounded
seen my
outward
son? He
and
should be
carried
here.
people inward, searching for relatives or joining the work of rescue. What followed was not a clean or dignified recovery.
どいてくれ
Black
ね、荷物
markets
を運んでるん
sprang
だ
up
ろ。
near the
Despite
ruined
the
train
challenges we
station.
face,
Families
education is
built
the
temporary
foundation of our
huts
future.
from salvaged wood and scrap
Let us
metal.
continue our lesson on history.
Schools lacked usable buildings, and students studied in whatever makeshift space could be found, while city records from the period described severe food shortages
In the immediate
and
aftermath of the
improvised housing
conflict,
stretching on
survival
for years.
was the priority.
Peace monuments
But even
were
amidst
not
the
the
rubble,
first priority.
the spirit
The new street grid
Food,
must prioritize
shelter,
resilience.
water,
But what about the cost of
and
acquisition
basic
here?
transport were.
We must look past the destruction
Yet
and
even
focus
amid
on the
that
future
disorder,
city.
a new
この地域
idea
を優
about
先す
what
べきですね。
Hiroshima should become
し
began
か
to
しは
take shape.
資材がふとしてい
As
ます
early
ね。
as 1946
平和記念。
and 1947,
Let this
city
day mark the
leaders
beginning
and
of a
civic
new era,
organizations
dedicated
began
to
speaking of
enduring
Hiroshima
peace and the
as a peace
restoration
memorial
of our
city.
beloved city.
And the first peace festival was held in 1947, well before the physical city had recovered. returning simply to what Hiroshima had been before the bombing no longer felt adequate. And an idea was forming that reconstruction could serve a purpose larger than economic restoration. That idea became national policy on August 6,
Once this section is cleared,
1949,
we can lay the foundation.
when the Hiroshima
new
Peace
city will rise
Memorial
from
City
this.
Construction
Yes,
Law
step by
took
step.
effect, directing that the city
must
be
ensure the
rebuilt
new
as a
roads are
symbol
wide enough to
of the
accommodate
pursuit of
future
lasting
growth.
peace.
Yes, and this
From
central
this
area
point
will be
forward,
dedicated to the
memory
new
was no
public
longer
square.
only a
The dramatic
sentiment.
conversion of this once
shaped
crowded
land
commercial
use,
neighborhood into a
planning
deliberately
decisions,
open civic space
public
required
architecture,
meticulous planning
and the
tireless
city's civic
effort.
identity.
Welcome,
all at
welcome.
once.
Normalization fresh vegetables
Nowhere
today.
was that
I'll
shift
take a
more
daikon
visible
radish.
than in
Normalization,
Nakajima,
please.
once the busiest
through
commercial
normalization,
district
excuse
in
me.
Hiroshima,
Clear this section entirely.
home
We need
to
the
roughly
measurements right now.
6,500 residents across 7
Make sure it
neighborhoods
aligns
at
with
the
the
time of
stakes.
the bombing. Rather than being rebuilt as shops and homes, the entire district was folded into the plan for what would become Peace Memorial
この部
Park,
分の構造計
a
算は
place once
FCD で
defined
再
by
確認してくだ
movement,
さいね。はい、部長さん。
commerce, and crowding
気象の深さはこれで
deliberately
十分ですかね。
transformed into open space,
Here, where
memorials,
the shadows of the
trees,
past loom,
and quiet.
a new
The
testament
architect
to
Kenzo
peace
Tang
is
and his
meticulously
team
rising
won the
from the
competition
ashes.
to design that park,
A testament to
arranging the
resilience,
museum,
the new memorial
cenotaph,
park welcomes
and a
visitors
clear line of
amidst the
sight
ongoing
toward the ruined
reconstruction
dome
of the
into a
surrounding
single
city.
symbolic
Across
axis.
Japan, the spirit of the
Peace
people
Memorial
fueled an
Park was
unprecedented
completed in
rebuilding effort,
1954,
laying the foundation for
and the
the
Peace
economic
Memorial
miracle to
Museum
come.
opened the following year. Reconstruction, however, was never only about memorials. Roads were widened, Peace Boulevard took shape,
A decade
businesses
and a half
reopened,
after the
housing
conflict,
expanded,
the new Japan
and
is a
industry
vibrant
recovered.
center of commerce
and by
and remembrance.
1958, Hiroshima's
sound of hammers
population
ringing out
had
across the
surpassed
neighborhood,
its pre-war
life
peak,
slowly begins to
reaching
return.
500,000
These children
by
represent the
1964.
future of a rebuilt nation.
Hiroshima succeeded as a memorial
By the
city
mid-1950s,
precisely
the
because
resilience
it
of the
refused to
Japanese
remain
people was
only a
evident in
field of
districts like
ruins.
this, where
It came
temporary
back to
shelters
life.
stood.
A child growing up in the 1950s might pass temporary houses, muddy widened streets, new schools,
A new city
freshly
rising from
planted
the
trees,
ashes.
and
Yet for men
construction
like him,
cranes.
the quiet
Then
memory
attend
of
a
the
memorial
destruction was
ceremony
never
the same
far
week.
away.
All within the same few blocks, while a survivor might commute to an ordinary job while carrying the lasting physical or psychological
While the city
weight
around it
of
reaches
that
for the
August
sky,
morning.
this skeletal
By
structure
the
remains,
1960s,
a preserved memory of the war
Hiroshima
amidst
had
the
solved
boom
a
of the
problem that
1960s.
once seemed impossible.
Japan's post-war
The city was
economic
alive
miracle
again.
is perhaps best
That
visualized
solution
here
created a
in
new
the rapid
question.
expansion of its regional centers.
As modern buildings kept replacing ruins, how much of the destroyed Hiroshima should remain visible at all? By the 1960s, post-war infrastructure was expanding rapidly, and Hiroshima's population had already surpassed its pre-war level and continued
This
climbing
preserved dome,
as the city
once the epicenter of
increasingly
destruction,
resembled a major
now overlooks a
metropolis.
bustling metropolis,
High-speed
a
rail,
powerful symbol of
expanded
resilience.
roads,
The skeletal dome
and
stands
continued
as a stark
municipal
reminder
growth
of a
further
devastating
wove
past,
Hiroshima
preserved
into the
amidst the
fabric of
rapid
modern Japan
modernization
in
of
the
the
decades
surrounding
that
city.
followed.
70 years later,
Reconstruction
the
had
skeletal
become
dome
something
remains,
larger,
a
an
silent
ordinary,
witness challenging the
functioning
city's
metropolitan
relentless
city.
march toward the future.
But as the ruins around
Surrounded
it
by this
disappeared,
level of ruin,
one structure
the future
grew
of the domed
increasingly
structure
unusual
was far from
rather
certain
than increasingly
as the massive
ordinary.
cleanup began.
As the neighborhoods
While the new
surrounding
city
it were
flourished,
rebuilt,
this ruin was
the atomic
deliberately
bomb dome
preserved,
stood
a
out more
poignant
starkly
contrast to the
with each
economic
passing
miracle
year.
surrounding it.
And for
As
a
the
long
new city
stretch of
rises,
time,
the scars
there
of the
was
past are
genuine debate
meticulously preserved,
over whether the
a
damaged
stark
structure
reminder
should be
of the cost of
preserved
war.
or finally demolished. In the years immediately after the bombing, ruins had been everywhere across the city. Decades later, nearly all of them had been repaired or replaced. And that success made the single ruin that remained more important, not less. Major preservation work on the dome began in the 1960s, and in 1996,
これが戦争が終わった
it was
時の写真です
recognized
ね。
as a
私たち
UNESCO
は本当に
World
疲れていま
Heritage
したね。
Site.
生きていてよかったですね。
Scaffolding rising
隣の
around
女
the
性は
broken
私の母で
structure,
すね。
while a rebuilt
These
skyline
ordinary
continued to
objects,
grow behind
once
it.
belonging to civilians,
Hiroshima had
now
decided that
serve as powerful
modernization
testaments.
needed a limit.
これはカイルーンが書いたとされる手
But not every scar from that
紙で
August
は
morning
この写真がそれを綱付けていますね。
なるほどね。ありがと
Buildings
うご
could
ざ
be
いますね。
reinforced and preserved almost
It feels like
indefinitely.
yesterday sometimes,
But the people
even
who had
after
lived
all
through that
these
day could not.
decades.
And so
I'm glad
survivor
you are here
testimony,
to document it.
drawings,
Handle this
photographs,
gently.
and personal
It's the last known
belongings
photo of
became
him.
an
I will, thank
increasingly
you.
urgent form
We'll
of
ensure it's
preservation
preserved
in their
correctly.
own right. The Peace
scene
Memorial
of
Museum
vibrant, Modern
open
Japanese
since
life,
1955,
where the serenity of the past
continued
meets the
collecting
hustle
these
of today's
materials
commuters.
and accounts, while later programs developed ways for younger generations to carry that memory forward once the last witnesses were gone. Memory itself had to be reconstructed, generation after generation, survivors remembering, institutions preserving, and descendants inheriting the responsibility to keep the story alive. And yet modern Hiroshima is not simply a memorial ground frozen around its own history. It is a city of offices, universities,
As it
shopping
has for
streets,
centuries,
sports
the river
arenas,
remains the enduring
factories,
heart of
and
this
homes
modern delta
where
city,
people commute,
a testament
marry,
to the geography
raise
that shaped
families,
its history.
complain
Carefully
about
now.
traffic,
Stack the rice bales
and
higher.
catch trains
Aye,
like residents
moving the
of any
last
other
one now.
Japanese metropolis. That ordinariness is,
In the
its own
immediate
way,
aftermath, the true
clearest
scale of the
evidence
destruction
that
became
Hiroshima
clear.
survived.
Survivors sought any
A
solace
city
they
that
could
remained
find in
only
the scarred
ruins would
landscape.
represent an
Here, the
unfinished
memory of the
recovery.
past coexists with
A
the
city that
vibrancy of
lives
the
an
present.
unremarkable
The
daily
Peace
life,
Memorial Park is a
alongside
living
an
landscape
extraordinary
of
history.
remembrance.
The
has
skeletal
completed
dome
one.
stands as a silent
Underneath
witness
every
to the
version
past,
of that history
surrounded now
runs
by the
the same
towering
continuity.
symbols of a rebuilt future.
The river built the delta before the city existed.
For centuries,
The river
these
carried
waterways
merchant
have
boats through
shaped
the
the
castle
coastline
town
of this
and
vibrant
connected
Japanese
it to trade
delta.
across the region. Port infrastructure later extended that same connection out to modern shipping lanes. Survivors moved toward those same rivers, seeking relief after the bombing, and Peace Memorial Park itself now lies between two of them, with the dome still standing on the bank of the Motoyasu. Buildings changed. Political systems changed. The very purpose of the city changed more than once, and even its coastline changed.
A
Only the
stunning
rivers
panorama
connect every
showcasing how
version
the
of
geography
Hiroshima
and the
that has
infrastructure
ever
of the
existed.
past continue
A
to
modern
define this
resident
modern
can step
Japanese
onto an
metropolis.
electric streetcar, a technology introduced to this city more than a century ago. Ride past a completely rebuilt downtown.
This vital
and
corridor
step
demonstrates
off
the total
within sight
mobilization
a
of the late
building
1930s,
intentionally preserved
a highly
in
efficient
its
machine
ruined
converting
form,
commerce
all
into
of it
military might.
occupying a few ordinary city blocks. How did a delta shaped for commerce and power eventually become the Hiroshima of today?
Amidst the
Because
ruins,
every
the
previous
first
version
steps
of the
toward
city
recovery are taken.
created the conditions
Workers
for
clear the
next
debris,
one.
creating a narrow
Water
passage
enabled
through the
trade.
devastation.
Trade
This area must
supported
serve a
growth.
new civic purpose beyond the
Growth
former military
demanded
role.
modernization.
Yes, but how do we integrate the
and
historic castle
modernization
without
built
compromising the flood
infrastructure
defenses along
that
the
later
river?
made the city strategically
Pull
vital.
tighter on the left.
That importance
Watch the
drew it
corner.
into war,
Steady now.
and war exploited every advantage the city
Recovery
had built
here
for
didn't
itself.
mean forgetting.
Atomic
The skeletal
destruction
ruin
broke that
stands
entire
as a
trajectory
testament
in a
amidst the
single
modern
morning.
revitalization.
Survival forced reconstruction, and reconstruction gave Hiroshima a purpose the builders of its castle in 1589 could never have imagined. The city did not survive by restoring everything it had lost. It survived by rebuilding almost everything around it, and by
Bathed in the
choosing
golden light of
deliberately
late
to
afternoon,
leave just enough
the
unrepaired
resilient
for its
spirit of the
past
city.
to remain visible within its
The
present.
river remains the
The
enduring
water
element,
that helped create Hiroshima
connecting this
is
city's
still
geography
moving
with its
through it
history,
today.